got it written down.
And good morning, Hoosier fans, and welcome to a monumentous Hoosier Morning After. This is the 100th edition of Hoosier Morning After, live from a convention center hallway in Las Vegas. It is 4:30 a.m. Still trying to get used to the time difference here, so it's not too bad. Too early for me in the morning. But thanks for being with us on a delayed edition. I kind of needed it for this kind of game. You know, you get games like this that are just frustrating, so emotional and everything, and 2 days down kind of really helps you to get focused on this. But 2 nights ago, your Indiana Hoosiers go on to lose to Arizona in a game that had a lot of frustration to it and different ways to look at it. But again, Indiana just kind of gets beat by a better team. It's always tough to say that, but Arizona's a better team. They're a very athletic team. They're a very physical team, and they showed it in a lot of ways. But I was very thankful for and impressed by the fight that the Hoosiers had. They fought back. In any other seasons, we would have seen this team not do that, not handle this kind of adversity well. But to battle like they did and bring it as close as they did so many times is a positive I will take from this game. I know there's very little positives you want to say in situations like that, but that is one positive I will take from this game. But there were also other things in the game that were frustrating and aggravating, and as you can hear in my voice, I was voicing myself, my opinion, very hardly during that game as well. During those, I'm still recovering from all the yelling that I was doing. But yeah, one of those games you just want to take and learn from. As Ray said in the postgame, they're a really good team. He'd love to tip it off again and thinks that if we get to a better start, maybe things will change. And I can agree with that. I think we just dug a hole that was too deep, and then just other circumstances within the game did not allow this team to get back from there. I'm going to pass it off to, with me as always, is Martha the Mop Lady. Martha, give me your kind of opening thoughts on this game.
Well, first off, congrats on show number 100. That's a big deal. That's very cool. And you're, just like the Hoosiers showed some resilience, so are you here in Vegas at 4:30 a.m. Getting a show in on a Monday morning. So hats off to you. I was going to comment on your Vegas voice there. I wasn't sure if it was yelling from the game or if you've not slept in 3 days. So we'll blame it on yelling at the game. Yeah, I mean, the game. I think quite honestly, it was lost in the first 10 minutes. You get behind 19 points to a team like Arizona, and no matter how hard you fight back, they always seem to have that punch back, right? I mean, we'd get close and they always had an answer, and that's what good teams do. And that's what great teams do. As a matter of fact, I think Arizona's a great team. They were good last year. They appear even better this year with some of the additions they've made through the portal and some of the length they have down low. And if this is a stage that Indiana wants to play on, and we know that it is, you've got to come out ready to punch. And I think we saw it at Rutgers, and then for whatever reason here in Vegas. Not coming out ready to blow, ready to serve that punch. And, we can talk about why and how it's come and who we were missing. And you've got to appreciate the fight. But, I think we're past, if we want this team to be what we know and think that it can be, I think my opinion is that we're past those, taking solace in the fact that we fought. We've got to come out ready to deliver that first punch. And that's what I want us to see. Again, we're playing without our starting point guard, our quarterback, and that's tough against a team like Arizona. But I think we quickly learned that once we figured things out, Arizona's a team that we can play with. But you can't come out in that first 10 minutes, get down 19 points and expect to win. That's just a tough ask. But, that's my thoughts. I think we learned a lot about our team. We learned that we can play with them, a team like Arizona, but we also learned how we have to come out against a team like Arizona. And we've got another another chance here in a week to kind of show what we learned. So I'm excited for that opportunity as well.
Yeah, and you talked about obviously who we missed in this game, and if you just kind of look at the stat sheet and look at the plus minus, the only positive we had in the plus minus was Xavier Johnson at +4. So right there, that obviously gives you a clear cut reason why we need Jalen Hood-Schifino so much and why we need that second ball handler to be out there. Do I think we win this game if Jalen Hood-Schifino is out there? I don't know. I don't think I could guarantee the win with him out there. I would definitely guarantee that it's probably a single-digit win by either Indiana or Arizona with him out there. I think it's definitely a lot tighter of a game because even with that hole that we dug, the fight back that we had, a lot of those then runs that they would go on were because of X was in foul trouble, and he sat on the bench a lot during the first half during some of those runs. What's your thoughts overall on that? And then just X had obviously a pretty decent game as well, enough. 3 for 13 from the field, only made 1 3-pointer, made all of his free throws, which we expect and is great for him, and just 2 turnovers. What'd you think of X?
I thought X played well. Again, I think it says more about, there was a missing piece, and you can call it Hood-Schifino, you can call it what you want, but when you've got a team that has bigs like Arizona, you have to have that extra threat on the perimeter. And I think X did really, really well, but there wasn't that second piece. This is a game that I think, for everything that Trey gives us, this is a game where I don't think you see with their athleticism. I don't think he can be the X factor that he sometimes can be. And, we feel so much better about him, coming off the bench when there's, he started the game, and when that big run at the beginning of the game happened, we didn't have a Trey Galloway to look at, to bring in to come in and right the ship, because he's forced to start. And, it just felt like, with the way they were clogging up the middle and really trying to eliminate Trace, we needed that one extra answer on the perimeter. I really think Miller stepped up a little bit, but there's still, it just feels like there's this one missing component. And to your point, you can't guarantee a win with Hood-Schifino, but that's a 5-star point guard that's sitting on your bench. And boy, I'd like to see what we look like with him in there, because he creates so much for us with his ability to get to the hole. But I thought X filled in, about as well as he could have. I thought, it's a big ask for him to be the lead guard and try to put us on his back when they're trying to clog Trace down. So again, I think we learned a lot about ourselves, and just really hope we get some good news on Hood-Schifino here moving forward.
Yeah, and you definitely don't want to rush getting him back in there. It's not when you have a back issue, it's something that obviously you could aggravate when you don't get full back in the healthy. And short term, yes, it could have played dividends in this game, but you need to think about the long term when you're thinking about a player like Jalen Hood-Schifino, and you got to play the long game every time in that. You mentioned another thing there and opened it up. If you look at the stats all the way down, I mean, field goal percentage, IU 42, Arizona 59, 3-point shots made, 40% by us, 40 by them, actually an exact same, 10 for 25 for both teams. Free throws, we actually shot free throws better at 78%. However, we only shot 9, they shot 25. A big notice in that is actually looking at the second half, where we shot only 1 free throw, they got 9 free throws. We'll get a little deeper into talking about that difference in a little bit. But the difference that I want to point out that's the most alarming that you see when you look at the stats is the points in the paint. And they really took care of us, as you said, with their big men. IU scoring 22 and Arizona scoring 42. Now, they are very dominant underneath, and they're very dominant both offensively and defensively. Offensively, I would argue a little bit, being there live and seeing it close up like I did, and I tweeted out, and a lot of you guys answered as well. Their big man was throwing a lot of elbows. he was pushing off a lot, and they weren't calling that. Now, I guess that's something that was set by the referees, that they're not going to call that in a game. That's something that I think would be called any other game. So IU needed to adjust to that. So I guess it's not necessarily an argument to say that we would have done better if they would have called that. So I can't play those if games, but that just says that IU needs to be tougher down low in those situations and everything. And I struggled to see Trace get going too much in this game. And it was one of those factors that we've talked about before on this show, where when he goes against a more physical big, it just throws him off his game totally. Now, to flip the coin on the other side, Race Thompson showed up a little bit more in this game and was an amazing three-point shooter. We were floored by what he was making. He ended up 4 for 7. Obviously, he shot a lot more because I think he was 3 for 3 at one point in the game. But that's where the game was really lost, was underneath. Us not being able to score like we usually do, and us not being able to stop the other team. What did you see from our bigs and just kind of that battle?
Yeah, I think for as much as you love what we saw from Race, it was almost a tale of two games for me with Race. I mean, for as much as we love from what we saw from him from the perimeter, there were some opportunities early in that game where he had some good looks down low that he absolutely needs to finish. And he was kind of the victim of, everybody's Twitter rage early in the game when we got down early, and then he started knocking down those threes, and everybody kind of changed their tone pretty quickly. But just a guy that, I was pretty frustrated too, because this was on the heels of really some pretty challenging performances from Race. And here's a guy that's returned for his 6th year that really needs to be the tone setter for us, that really needs to go out and play with that chip on his shoulder. And we've talked a little bit about it. It's easy for us to say, but sitting on your couch, it almost feels like he was just kind of going through the motions for a little while, which was really hard to kind of comprehend for a guy that chose to come back for a 6th year. You wanted to see, kind of that emotion, that fire, playing with that edge. And part of that is just contributing a little bit more. And I think it was nice to see him knock down some 3-point shots. But again, I want to see him, he shot the ball 14 times. That's 10 more times than Trace Jackson Davis. And to your point, it almost feels like if they've got larger bigs that for whatever reason Trace doesn't even get looks, and it's not so much Trace being a threat, but it's almost like he just becomes non-existent. There was a time in the second half there that he didn't have it. He didn't even make a field goal attempt for much of the second half. I want to say 3/4 of the second half. He didn't even get a shot off. And for me, that's just a matter of not getting him looks, right? I mean, you can go against bigs all day and struggle, but I'd rather Trace go 4 for 24 than 4 for 10. And, he's our All-American big, and you've got to find a way to play through him a little bit more, in my opinion. So I was a little bit challenged by that. And again, here we are, we're getting clean looks outside because they're clogging up the middle, and we're playing from behind for the entire game. So I get that. I understand that. You're trying to chip and claw your way back in it. So when those perimeter shots are there, you're going to take them. But, here you're talking about an All-American Player of the Year candidate that in my opinion, for him to only get 10 shots off is that's got to change for us to get where we need to go. So, hopefully we see better against Kansas.
And I guess at least at one point we have to address the red herring, as it will, in the room, the goaltend. That was a goaltend. I don't know if many of you spotted me in my seats. Those weren't the seats that I bought. I took advantage of the fact that this game was a two-for game as far as ticket-wise. And when the Washington fans left, we talked to them and said, hey, you guys coming back or anything? Can we take your seats? So upgraded our seats and sat right behind the Indiana bench. And you might have seen me on the telecast in the background. But I had a perfect look at that on the side and everything. And I don't know. I'd love to see those. Sometimes you get those letters out and those explanations from officials and all that stuff. I just don't know. I don't know how you don't call that a goaltend. I don't know if they thought it was an alley-oop, if they were distracted somewhere else, but how three refs can miss that where a guy's hand is practically touching the rim, hitting a ball that's headed that way, and looked good and looked like it was headed in. And I think it's equally frustrating because it was a big momentum swing. We go down to the other end, and a technical is called on a flop on Malik. Now, I'll let you talk on that a little bit because I haven't really seen it. I haven't seen replays of it. I haven't gone back and watched this game yet, which I'd love to. I want to because I mean obviously when we watch games we're kind of I'm programmed at least to see it from TV. So I missed some things in this game being live, but it was great obviously always to be there and have that energy. I didn't see that play and that flop, and then the moments right after that, then we have Trace getting his third foul. Talk to me about that circumstance, the situation, and then what you saw.
Yeah, I think overall, I mean, it's frustrating, not necessarily because of the sequence of calls, but really because of the impact that it had on the game. And in that moment, right? I mean, you got a situation where Arizona always seemed to have the answer. Anytime we got close, I think we had a chance to get it to 6 or 4 before the end of the first half, and you know they had an answer there. And this really felt like a moment where maybe we could, you know, to go back to Woody last year, get over that hump. Right, here's an opportunity. And Trace has this way of getting to the hole and flipping it up, and it almost doesn't look like a shot. You know, to the I'm not defending the referee because it was an obvious and clear goaltend. I mean, obvious. But Trace has this way of getting to the hole and flipping this runner in the lane up that you're almost like that really looks like a pass, and it does. But the point is that it was right above the rim, and it was clearly a shot. There was nobody there to really to receive the pass, so it was a shot. And you know, regardless of what it looked like leaving his hands, the fact of the matter is that the ball was goaltended above the rim, and it should have been called. And then, you know, the icing on the cake was the sequence that followed for, you know, and the flop from Malik. Did he flop a little bit? Yes, but there were many instances when Arizona did the same during this game, and they weren't called for it. So the sequence was incredibly frustrating. The missed goaltend, the inconsistencies in terms of a flop being called against Indiana. You know, Arizona, Tommy Lloyd, I think is his name, Arizona's coach, was just working I don't know if you saw it from your seat, but he was just constantly chirping the officials to the point that it was, you know, my feeling from my seat, and of course I'm a homer, is that, man, Indiana, I mean, look how many foul shots you guys shot. I mean, it's, what are you complaining about? And for him to just it almost came off as whining, and you know, did that have an impact on it? Who knows? But that whole sequence was just a backbreaker for Indiana. And you hate that the officials the reason we lost the game? No. Was that sequence? Maybe. I mean, you could argue that was a chance for us to get back in and really, really seize momentum. And you know, you hate the impact that it ended up having on the game. But again, not having to chip and claw back if you don't start the game like we did. So, but frustrating nonetheless. It was a clear goaltend and had a heavy impact on the game.
Yeah. Some other players I want to talk about before we maybe look at a few other stats are our wings. We've been a little frustrated with our wing players in recent time and everything, with them stepping up and everything. But I liked what they played. I liked what they did. I think they struggled a little bit on the defensive side with a little bit more athletic Arizona team. But I liked what Miller Kopp was doing out there. He was open a lot. There were many times, and a lot of us in the arena were yelling, pass it to Miller. He was open a lot and missed a lot on guys' drive and kickouts, but finishing with 14 points, just the second most on the team, 4 for 9 from the field, 4 for 8 from 3-point range. And then also talking about Trey. Trey, obviously, again, like we kind of mentioned earlier, just 4 points. He struggled a little bit in this game. Again, some of that athleticism gap was too much for him to handle. What did you see out of our wing players as a big cart of food goes rolling by?
Yeah, I think it's time we, you know, put a little appreciation towards Miller Kopp. You know, I think his poor performances this season are really becoming the outlier for him, and he's been a guy that's taken a massive step for us offensively. not only from the perimeter, but his mid-range jump shot has come a long way too. So, I think it may not stick out against a team as athletic as Arizona, but when you start to look at what Miller's giving us statistically, he's been a massive contributor. He was the only one that showed up against Rutgers, and here he's a guy that put up 14 points, was second in the team in scoring against Arizona. So he's a guy that's really, really taken a massive step for us. And I thought, there could have been an argument made that maybe Tamar, it's hindsight, right? And Trey's done such a solid job for us, but against a team like Arizona, that maybe that's an opportunity for Tamar to start, just with his length and athleticism. But I thought he played well too. 6 for 10 from the field. That's strong, 29 minutes. So yeah, I was really, really proud of him too. I just, Trey, we talked about it, right? Just, it doesn't, there's a lot of games that Trey is going to be key for us to win, especially physical games in the Big Ten. But with as athletic and as long as Arizona is, and with, really with the way they clog things up in the middle, you've got to have some athletic wings and some wings that can get to the hole against athletic guards and score. And I don't know that that's Trey's strong suit. So yeah, a game that he struggled a little bit in, but I just go back to, again, I keep harping on what we were missing, but I thought Tamar, I thought X, X isn't necessarily a wing, but the guards that we did have, stepped up. It's just that piece that's missing for us right now.
Yeah. And Nick pops into the chat here and says, Chad, I'm glad. Oh, hold on one second. Some more,
Nick,
more food going
Nick
by.
Nick had himself a weekend with the moms of Indiana basketball. I saw a lot of photos with him making a tour of some of the Hoosier moms. So he's got a new friend group, it sounds like.
Yeah. Nick was out there having a blast. So maybe he is. Maybe they're gonna have some meetups and some little I don't know, some pregame talks and stuff. Mom tour. There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
That's great. But that's one thing I wanted to speak on was the attendance and just the event overall for Hoosiers. Coming in on Friday and walking around, you just saw Indiana gear everywhere. And it was just so awesome to walk around and call in response to everyone, go Hoosiers, and the excitement that everyone had. And you could just see we were outnumbering their fans and everything. Now, granted, I know early on we would have outnumbered them because Arizona's pretty close. They probably just drove in on the day and went to the game. But to see so many people there and supporting them and everything, especially as someone that doesn't live in Indiana, doesn't live close to Bloomington, you don't see IU gear often. You don't see people out with IU stuff where it's commonplace, obviously, there in Indiana. But to see that kind of strong power that we had and how many people traveled and everything like that, it added extra juice to this game. And juice that I think maybe the players tapped into a little bit just to stay in this game and not hang their head and get lost out. But it was so great to meet a lot of you guys. I appreciate everyone that came up and said that they like the show, like what they've done on not only this show but Assembly Call. So I really appreciate all of you for doing that, and to meet you and see you, and watching the soccer game as well in the bar beforehand, which so excited for them to play as well today. Make sure you guys don't miss that. But just a great environment, a great arena. We easily had 80% of the fans there, and we were full throat. We were wanting to explode. We were looking for great moments. I think if we just popped something with the lead at some point, I think us fans could have been that tipping point to lead things off. Watching it through Twitter and then watching it in the game, how did you hear the number of fans? What did it appear like on TV?
Yeah, I was a little bit. I'll use the word jealous. I was supposed to go and had to part ways with my tickets about a week before the event, just based off some conflicts with my daughter's basketball schedule. So I had this one circled myself for a long time. It was one that I expected to be at, and I knew so many people that were going, and I had a feeling that it was going to be a real event for IU fans in terms of how many people are going out and the amount. And, to me, it just speaks to how hungry we are as a fan base. And I would say even as a program as well. But we want this program to be so successful, so bad, right? To the point where we would travel across the country to watch them play in a premier event like we did. I mean, there's not many programs that could fill 80% of an arena, thousands of miles away from their campus. But Indiana can, and I think that speaks to how strong our fan base is, how passionate we are, how much we want to win. And on top of that, from my seat at home, you could hear it. You could tell that it just felt like that place was ready to explode. And to your point, if we could have just gotten within a couple points or over that hump and grasped onto a lead, I think the fans could have carried the Hoosiers to a win. It's just every time we got close, Arizona had that answer. But it was fun to see. Every time I was talking to my buddy yesterday, coach, and it was like every time they panned the stands, it was just nothing but IU shirts. So hopefully you had a chance to record it and go back and watch it, because it was fun to watch on TV. But yeah, I guess I would ask you this too, and I know IU went out. I don't want to sound like a boomer here at all, and I'm not trying to, but I'm going to ask the question. IU went out a couple days early. I know Coach Hunter got married out there, and it looked like they had kind of a good time leading up to the game. Is there any, how do you feel their mindset was going into the game? Do you feel like they were prepared to play a basketball game? Was there too much of a circus around the game? And you saw the thing in the lobby. How do you feel about that? I'm just would love to hear your opinion.
I don't know. I mean, I think to a minuscule point, I think it may have a little bit of effect. It may be a confidence boost in the way of, oh yeah, we've got this, we're going to nail them, rather than being on your toes of, okay, I got to be ready for this. But I think the added juice that it gives outweighs that. These kids have traveled before. They've been in big games. They dealt with going to the Bahamas. I saw them out and about more in the Bahamas than I saw the team out and about in this one. And other fans will say, and they saw them Friday night out and stuff like that. But I don't know. I don't think so. I think obviously traveling and being somewhere away from home, I think if you compare it to a home game, yes, it definitely affects your outcome, because you're not at home. You're not under your familiar surroundings. You're distracted by what's going on around you and everything. You're distracted by those moments, like you said. So I think it might affect to a degree, but not enough that the coaches should be able to refocus them. And as Nick just said, obviously in the chat as well, that the seniors can lock in the younger guys and everything. So I mean, I get that. That you think it's a distraction, and I think it is to a degree. Maybe that kind of distraction favors Arizona because they've come up here before and played, so it's not a big deal to them. It's kind of a regular business thing. So you may be onto something a little bit there, but in the end, we got to look past that. We got to get things going and everything. Trying to look at some stats. I think we talked about a lot of the stats. I think one more stat that I want to kind of talk about in this game is the layups, and I think that's goes hand in hand with the points in the paint talk that we had, and a number that I continually like to look at. And any sort of losses we have or struggled games that are close that shouldn't be, that's usually the stat line to look at. Since we play so much in the paint, we were 6 for 15 with layups. The other obviously things is that free throw stat line that you look at, but other than that, looking back and forth between the two teams, everything lines up pretty even. Any stats that you see in this game?
Yeah, I think one guy I'd like to talk about is Jordan Geronimo. I really felt like this could be a game that, with his size and athleticism, could be a difference maker, and he really wasn't. It's just, you kind of get to the point where it's like you have a conversation. You remember the parents having the conversation when you're young. It's like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And we're starting. I feel like we're starting to get there with Jordan a little bit. He's a guy that in flashes. We have a conversation about similarly with Tamar a little bit. It's like, at a certain point, that corner has to be turned, right? And you're about a quarter of the way into your sophomore season, and just a guy that has he's got the skill set, the tools. If you talk about NBA potential on this team, we know what we have with Hood Schifino, but then he's a guy that is second out of a lot of people's mouths with in terms of NBA potential. And you just don't see it on a consistent enough basis. And yeah, he only got 8 minutes, but I think that's in the 8 minutes that he did get, just not much of a factor. And I know Arizona's got a ton of length down low, but here's a guy that's as athletic as hell, and to me can get to the hole whenever he wants. So, run some sets, get the ball in there, try to get some contact and get to the line, and just not seeing it. So I really would have loved to see more from him. I thought he could have been a little bit of a difference maker. But outside of that, obviously you mentioned the free throw disparity compared to theirs. I mean, that's tough. That's for a team as I'd like to think we're somewhat athletic and as experienced as we are, I feel like we should be getting to the line a little bit more. There should never be that big of a disparity. And I think some of it was just how the game was called. And you can't always control that, and then, I think Malik continues to struggle a little bit with Jalen out. So, a couple of guys that you would have loved to see step up that just, I don't know if they just weren't ready for the moment, but, still a lot of season ahead of us.
Yeah, and kind of to talk about Jordan, like you said, I think this game truly was just to give him an excuse or whatever, call it what you will, just a matchup disaster for him. Yeah, we've had some lineups and some times where we've played him at the 3. This is not a game that you would play him at the 3 because I think he would have struggled and gotten a lot of fouls trying to contain his man driving into the lane because they were getting those types of looks. And then putting him on one of those bigs, I think that he maybe would have struggled against. They've been physical. Maybe it would have been something to try a little bit longer than those 8 minutes, like you said. But I think he struggled. On the flip side, when you talk about matchups, this is where you do see who is athletic on the IU roster. And Tamar Bates showed that. And he needed to be, I think, a click more aggressive, but he was able to get into the lane, a few pull-ups. The three-point shot looked pretty good. Just, I liked what he brought to this game and how he showed what he can do. I would love to see it be a springboard for him moving forward into the next game, because again, we're coming up on a not equally athletic, but another athletic team in Kansas, and so Indiana needs to obviously step it up defensively, but also be aggressive offensively and get to the lane and get those baskets, and that's something obviously that Tamar can do. It's also something that we get from other guards. Trey has done that before, and everything else. So I would love to see, love to see that continue for these guys. Obviously, next game coming up is the guys have a week break, a Saturday, December 17th at Kansas, 9 a.m. I think I got that wrong. That's wrong on that. I think I'm getting Vegas times on that. But anyways, it's on ESPN2. So add 3 hours. That's probably a 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock tip, if I will, on ESPN2. A very exciting game, a very big game. Obviously, we circled the North Carolina game, this game, Arizona game, and the Kansas game as big games. 1 for 2. We don't really want to do that. 2 for 1 if we can do that. Out of these games, that's great. What do you know about Kansas, or what do you think about this game coming up?
Yeah, I think if this game were on a neutral court, Indiana would be the favorite. I don't think Kansas is nearly. I shouldn't say it's nearly. I don't think they're as strong as they were, last year. Obviously, they won the national championship last year, so they did lose some players from that team, and they got a team that's lost a couple of games early in the year. And again, I think if they were on a neutral court at full strength, I think Indiana would be the favorite. Obviously, not many teams go into Allen Fieldhouse and leave with a win. So it's you put yourself in a position. I think to your point, when you look at these 3 games, you would have loved to see Indiana take 2 of the 3, and there's still an opportunity to do that. It's going to be a big ask to go into Kansas and get a win. But I think we learned a lot about ourselves and how we need to come out against teams like this. against Arizona. So again, it's all about the response now. We said that after Rutgers, we had a pretty decent response. Now we're against Nebraska. Now we're saying this about, Arizona's at a whole different level. I think they're a team that could go on to win it all. They've got that type of talent. And, so you use it as a learning experience for a team that I think when you get towards the back end of this season, we're going to look back at that game and be glad that we played it and be glad that it happened. We said the same thing about Xavier. These are all learning experiences for a team that has the opportunity to be successful, but hasn't necessarily experienced success. So there's clear learning experiences as you go through these types of games. So Kansas is just another one of those opportunities, but you've got to come out ready to punch, ready to deliver that punch. You can't be caught back on your heels, or before you know it, they're going to go on a 19-0 run, and then you're going to be playing catch up the entire game. So, I know a lot of IU fans are traveling, to that game. Obviously, it's not going to be any type of experience we saw in Vegas, but there will be a decent amount of IU fans there, and again, I think it's just another opportunity for IU to prove that they belong on the national stage, and would love to see a game that comes down to the wire with IU having the chance to win.
Yep. Very exciting. Hopefully. Knock on wood, knock on all surfaces that you have around you. But yes, a very exciting stretch coming up. We do that, and then we start to get into Big Ten play. And the Big Ten's going to be a rough one this year. The Big Ten's going to be as rough and tumble as we have seen in past years. Things are getting mixed up. Teams are beating other teams. It's going to be fun. It's going to be crazy. It's order your blood pressure medicine now, Hoosier fans, because you're going to need it this year in the Big Ten. Martha, give me your kind of overall thoughts on this game and close us out here.
Yeah. So again, I think that we're getting past the point. If we haven't, we're getting pretty close of getting past the point of being, proud of the fight. I'll say you always want your team to show fight and not, and never give up. But I think we're to the point now where we're ready to see this team come out and punch and fight from tip off to the end of the game. And we've had a couple of games now that I don't know that we can say that we've seen that happen. Rutgers was a rock fight, and we were never ready or prepared to deliver a punch there. And with Arizona, it was a little bit different. We were just kind of caught on our heels, and they came out and slapped us in our face. And we fought back, but we also proved that we can play with a team against Arizona. So now it's time for us to flip the script a little bit, go to Kansas, and come out of the gate strong. It's a real opportunity. We've got a week to kind of get healthy, learn from this one. Hopefully, Hood-Schifino's back is feeling better. Again, to your point, though, we've got a ton of season left. This Big Ten is going to be a grind. So you don't want to risk injuring a player for one game and losing him for 20. So, you want to make sure that thing's right and we're ready to go. The Big Ten is going to be a battle. You saw Iowa lose at home last night. You've seen home losses all over the place. So it's, every team's going to drop some games in the Big Ten. It's just going to happen. But you've got to take care of those opportunities when they're in front of you. So ton of opportunity left. I know we were collectively down a little bit as a fan base after that Arizona game. But if you didn't see it, you should have. We can play with that team. We've just got to prove it for 40 minutes. So excited about the next one at Kansas, another chance to prove we belong, and glad we have a week to prepare for it.
And also, this just in from the moms group. Maybe we have Nick as the insider here. I think we may have on Hoosier Morning After tapped into the unsung information stream from the moms. Jalen is hoping but doubtful for Kansas. So there you go.
Who knew that we have an inside scoop from Nick by creating a moms group? He's breaking news. TMZ there from Nick. I love it.
Yeah, Nick, keep up the good work. We'll get you on staff here in a second. We'll throw out your own segment. What are the moms saying?
Mom's minute.
Mom's minute. There you go. Nick, prepare. Get us little tidbits. The pressure is on. But yes, this was a game, obviously, that we were very excited for. And the things that I take away from it is that Indiana has to put down the shovels. We have to stop digging these holes that we have done in the past and now this year, a time or two. I do like the response that we had. And that was good to see, and to see that fight. It wasn't a full knockout punch back, but we were swinging and trying to land a few punches at the end. So I do like that out of this team, and I like what that means for this team moving forward as we get into the Big Ten. But very exciting with the show out. Very excited to be amongst Hoosier Nation again and to feel that love. Thank you so much again for everyone that was around and everything for that. And thank you to you for tuning in to this 100th edition of Hoosier Morning After. I love doing this show. I don't make a dime doing this show. It is my hobby. It is my passion outside of my family. So thank you for being a part of that for me. Thank you for being along with me. And also thank you to Martha for joining me now on this journey as we go along. Follow us on Twitter. There you can find out information about the show. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button on this video. Thanks for being with us. We'll be back again the morning after the next show. Until then, as always, and I sign out from Las Vegas. Have a wonderful day, and go Hoosiers.